Hi, Black Cat Recapped here. Today, I'm going to explain a fantasy horror movie named The Unhealer. The movie starts with a high school student named Kelly. People at his school are mean to him because he has a medical condition called pica. This makes Kelly want to eat things that aren't food. Because of this, his classmates make fun of him and call him names, comparing him to trash. Things get even worse because nobody takes action against the bullies. The school coach, Gus, is related to one of them and supports them. Kelly's mom, Bernice, cares a lot about her son and is concerned about him and his medical condition. One day, she meets a person who claims to be a famous healer named Fluger. He shows his healing power by touching an old lady and making her better almost like a miracle. After witnessing this, Bernice asks the healer to visit her sick son, Kelly, and he agrees. Another person named Red Elk, who knows the real story about the healer's abilities, tries to caution him about the harm it can bring, but the healer doesn't take it seriously. Fluger comes to visit Bernice and Kelly in their motorhome to help Kelly. When he first tries to heal Kelly, it doesn't seem to work. Fluger then asks to use the bathroom and, after using some cocaine and smoking a cigarette, he tries to heal Kelly once more. Sadly, after using all his energy, Fluger collapses and dies on the floor. The healing session turns out to be successful because Kelly suddenly wakes up, which greatly relieves Bernice. To their astonishment, Kelly is also cured of his condition as he now wants to eat regular food and drink. After this, Red Elk buries Fluger in a distant and secluded place. When Kelly goes back to school, he meets one of the bullies, Reed, who tries to attack him. Surprisingly, both of them discover that the pain and harm Reed tries to inflict on Kelly actually affects Reed himself. After a few more unsuccessful attempts, a scared Reed runs away, calling Kelly a freak. After school, Coach Gus and his bullies visit Kelly and falsely accuse him of beating up Reed, pointing out that Kelly is unharmed. However, Bernice stands up for her son and makes them leave. Bernice is confused and asks what's happening, and Kelly discloses that he has somehow acquired the ability to bounce back any injury onto the person who inflicted it. Initially, she's skeptical, but Kelly proves his powers by pinching his own arm, causing Bernice to feel the pain, which surprises her. She makes Kelly promise not to misuse these abilities and to keep them a secret from everyone else, and he agrees. Then at a bonfire party, Dominique, whom Kelly has become friends with and has feelings for, is assaulted by the group of bullies. Kelly sees this and intervenes. An argument erupts between Kelly and one of the bullies, Nelson, but Coach Gus intervenes and breaks it up. Afterward, Kelly decides to leave the party and rides his bicycle back home for the night. But when the bullies in their car see Kelly and start following him, they catch up to him and hit him with the car. But because of his special powers, the harm goes back to the bully driving, and it ends up fatally hurting him. Kelly is really scared by this and accuses the bullies of causing the deadly accident. Meanwhile, the frightened bullies run away and call the police. Dominique arrives at the scene and, seeing that Kelly is completely fine, pushes him to explain his unique powers. Later on, the police question both Kelly and the bullies. Kelly is cleared of any wrongdoing because the bullies can't provide a reasonable explanation for what happened. The bullies, angry that their friend died due to Kelly, decide to get revenge by playing a trick on him. They wait for Kelly to leave his motorhome and attach a chain to the supports of the motorhome. Then, they use their car to pull the connected chain and remove the supports, causing the motorhome to collapse to the ground. They feel satisfied, thinking their prank worked. But little did they know, Kelly's mother was sleeping inside the motorhome and woke up due to the prank. The prank caused a chain of events, making a gas line break and jamming the door, trapping Bernice inside. An explosion happens, and shortly after, Kelly arrives to see his home on fire. He rushes inside in a desperate attempt to rescue Bernice, but sadly, he couldn't save her. She had already passed away due to the fire, leaving Kelly devastated and heartbroken. Kelly, who is in the hospital, is seen nibbling on parts of his bandage. Meanwhile, Sheriff Adler is looking into the reasons behind the fire that led to Kelly's mother's death. When the bullies find out about what occurred, they become anxious and worried that they might be arrested and sent to jail. The bullies are aware that the fire was accidental, so they feel somewhat reassured and think they shouldn't be overly concerned. They decide to head to a nearby river to unwind and go for a swim. Meanwhile, at the same time, Sheriff Adler is taking Kelly to a temporary place where he can stay for the time being. While driving with Sheriff Adler, Kelly discovers that a chain was discovered near his burnt-down house. This revelation dawns on him, making him realize that his bullies were responsible for the fire that resulted in his mother's death. In a moment of intense emotion, Kelly breaks free from the sheriff and goes to the river where he finds the bullies swimming. In a shocking twist, Kelly goes through their possessions and discovers Tucker's shirt. Using it as a kind of connection, he strangles himself while Tucker is swimming in the river. This tragic act leads to Tucker suffocating and ultimately drowning in the river. The bullies are unable to save him, initially assuming it's all a prank, only realizing the seriousness of the situation when it's too late to rescue Tucker. Emerging from his hiding spot, Kelly declares, 1 down, 2 to go. Reed, who knows about Kelly's powers, becomes terrified and quickly runs away. Kelly decides to spare Reed, letting him escape. Sheriff Adler arrives and makes Kelly leave the scene, but not before Kelly vows to get revenge and kill the remaining bullies. The bullies attempt to convince Adler of Kelly's extraordinary abilities, but he remains skeptical. It's only when Red Elk confides in Adler and reveals that Pfluger, during the attempt to heal Kelly, not only healed him but also transferred his healing powers to Kelly, that Adler begins to believe. This explains Kelly's abilities as an unhealer. During the night, Kelly pays a visit to Dominique and pleads for her assistance in dealing with the bullies, explaining that they were responsible for his mother's death. The following day, at school, Kelly and Dominique burst into the science class and confront the 2 remaining bullies, Tony and Nelson. Kelly urges them to confess and reveal the truth about their actions, but they pretend not to know what he's talking about. In an attempt to provoke them, he challenges Tony to throw a cup of acid at his face. Tony falls for the provocation and tosses the acid at Kelly's face. As anticipated, the pain and injuries are reflected back onto Tony, causing his face to burn and swell. Tony's girlfriend, Sarah, filled with anger and sorrow, kicks Kelly in the groin. However, once again, the pain is reflected back onto her. Kelly then accuses Nelson of being responsible for what happened to Tony, stating that Nelson had plenty of chances to confess and save Tony, but he only cared about himself. Before Kelly can take further action, Sheriff Adler arrives, forcing him to withdraw for the time being. Nelson and Sarah have a conversation about how challenging it is to confront Kelly, given that any harm he suffers bounces back to the one inflicting it. However, Sarah discloses that she knows of a potential solution. She had observed Kelly eating some vines near Pfluger's grave, which had caused him pain and made him vomit the plant back up. This information might provide them with a way to deal with Kelly's powers. They opt to collect some of the plant and transform it into a liquid form to use against Kelly. The following day, while on the field, Nelson and his father, Coach Gus, are conversing with the sheriff when Kelly suddenly appears. He has consumed a portion of Nelson's shirt and is now determined to exact his revenge. Kelly readies a power drill, just as Nelson gets ready to use a fire extinguisher filled with the harmful plant in liquid form. However, before Nelson can spray Kelly, Kelly stabs himself in the leg with the drill, causing the harm to bounce back at Nelson. Gus, witnessing this shocking event, urges the sheriff to intervene. However, Dominique arrives on the scene and implores Kelly to stop, diverting his attention and allowing Nelson the opportunity to spray him with the plant, inflicting pain on Kelly. Despite the temporary setback, Kelly's healing abilities begin to kick in, albeit slower than usual. Gus, having witnessed enough, seizes Sheriff Adler's gun and shoots Kelly in the head. Tragically, the shot is reflected, resulting in the deaths of both Nelson and Gus simultaneously. Sheriff Adler attempts to persuade Kelly to give up his powers, emphasizing that they don't rightfully belong to him. Kelly agrees to do so, but only after Dominique convinces him. Adler and Red Elk gather at Pfluger's grave to begin the ritual to remove Kelly's powers. As the ritual approaches its zenith, a group of officers arrives and opens fire on Kelly. Tragically, the bullets are reflected, resulting in the deaths of both the officers and Dominique, who was standing right beside Kelly. Overwhelmed by grief and unable to save Dominique's life, Kelly is filled with despair. In a desperate act, he seizes Pfluger's decayed heart and consumes it. This drastic action leads to Kelly's own demise, seemingly bringing an end to the entire tragic ordeal. In the concluding scene, An ambulance is seen transporting the lifeless bodies of Kelly and Dominique. However, in a shocking twist, one of the body bags suddenly moves, revealing Dominique. She is shown scratching at her wound, complaining that it's itchy, echoing Nelson's earlier comment in the movie.